The moist dawn swaddled Sanford, Maine, in its pallor, its quietude broken only by the whispered sighs of nature. This was where Samuel Lynch found himself. A grizzled figure with timeline face, he was the unwelcome intruder, a detective summoned to a local orphanage to scrutinize a most peculiar series of crimes. As he stood on the rain-kissed gravel before the spectral shadow of the orphanage, the naked scars of freshly dug-up graves stretched out before him like open wounds upon the earth. The sight cast a ghastly echo into his soul, stirring the silt of long-buried memories. His broad shoulders stooped, carrying the weight of years marred by trauma, physical abuse that had morphed into unseen but deep-set lines of pain. His eyes, glinting with determination beneath a furrowed brow, swept over the disturbed land. His fingers traced the worn edges of a small locket that he always carried, his talisman and his reminder of survival. The financial allure of the case had lured him initially, a chance to escape the shadow of debt that trailed him. But as he gazed upon the violated graves, an unsettling familiarity gripped him. The terror of desecration and theft, the echoes of a past that still haunted his dreams, no longer seemed like distant echoes. He moved closer to the crime scene, his boots imprinting muddy ghosts on the dew-drenched grass. The large oak tree that watched over the graveyard stood there, ancient and knowing, its bark marred with strange symbols, grotesque yet eerily mesmerizing. With his curiosity piqued, he sketched the mysterious symbols onto his notepad, their alien nature pricking at the edges of his understanding. "It ain't right. What they've done to these poor souls," came a voice, shattering the silence. It was Marjorie, the wizened caretaker of the orphanage. Her eyes, murky with age and sorrow, reflected the grim scene before them. Lynch nodded, his reply as heavy as the silence that preceded it. "No, it isn't." He found himself drawn to her, a moth to the weary light of her grief. They spoke at length, Lynch seeking clues in their heavy dialogue, sifting through the grains of her words like a desperate gold panner. The children, their behavior, the odd lights in the sky, the whispers in the forest. He absorbed it all, his mind painting an intricate, cryptic mural. As the sun began to set, casting long, monstrous shadows that seemed to jeer at him, he felt a grim resolve settle within him. The eerie scene, the cryptic symbols, the hushed fear permeating the town. It was a knotted ball of yarn he was determined to unravel. Stepping away from the violated sanctity of the graves, his silhouette swallowed by the creeping darkness, he left the graveyard behind, carrying the burden of its chilling mystery with him. The soft glow from the orphanage's windows seemed to flicker like an uncertain heartbeat as he turned his back, heralding the impending storm of terror and revelation that lay ahead in his path. Sanford, under the gray shroud of an unforgiving dusk, held its secrets close. Lynch returned to the enigmatic orphanage, carrying with him the disquiet of unanswered questions. Each step took him deeper into the labyrinth of uncertainty, his reality entangled in a web of shadows, with each silken thread vibrating with dread. The orphanage, a stern edifice shrouded in a history of lost innocence, was a labyrinth of hushed voices and hidden corners. He navigated its halls, echoes of childhood laughter now replaced by an uneasy silence that seemed to creep from the ancient walls. He studied the faces of staff and older children, their eyes reflecting an eerie emptiness that seemed to mirror the disturbed graves outside. He found himself in conversation with the headmaster, a man named Powell, whose own eyes were opaque pools of unease. They spoke in the low, guarded tones of those unwilling to wake some slumbering horror. The dialogue was a dance, an intricate ballet of probing questions and hesitant answers, revealing the strange behaviors of the staff and the children. "Have you noticed their eyes, Detective?" Powell's voice quivered like a frail leaf in an autumn breeze. "The vacant stares, as if they're seeing things not of this world." Their conversation was cut short by a scream, raw and chilling, that shattered the oppressive silence of the orphanage. They found Marjorie in one of the storage rooms, her face as pale as the moonlight seeping through the grimy window. In her trembling hand, she clutched a small velvet pouch filled with syringes and an unknown iridescent substance. The strange fluid seemed to pulse with a sickly luminescence, painting disturbing patterns on the storage room's damp walls. It appeared alive, insidious, like an alien entity trying to communicate in a language of light and shadow. With a growing sense of dread, Lynch recognized the patterns mirrored the strange symbols from the graveyard's oak tree. "We found these in the children's quarters," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper in the eerie silence that followed. A profound disquiet seeped into his bones. As he left the premises with the evidence in tow, Sanford's streetlights flickered, casting wavering shadows that danced like phantom specters upon the quiet town. The strange substance, the vacant stares, the whispers of the unseen, it all spun a terrible, intricate web where each thread pulled him further into the shadowy abyss. As he drove away, the orphanage receded into the background, the windows glowing ominously, like many eyes watching his departure. He knew then that the storm he anticipated was on the horizon, its dark underbelly rumbling with secrets and unspeakable horrors. He would have to brave the tempest and wrestle with the shadows, his resolve tested like never before, and pray that he would not be consumed by the darkness. The journey had only begun. Through the veil of madness, he would have to tread towards revelations that promised to shatter his perception of the world and himself. For in the web of shadows, the prey was not always what it seemed, and the hunter could easily become the hunted. Under the cold, impersonal light of the laboratory, the iridescent substance revealed its malevolent nature. It was a drug of unknown composition, capable of opening doors to other realms within the mind. Lynch absorbed this revelation, his world narrowing to a pinpoint as he stared at the sterile report. Around him, the bustling laboratory's hum of activity was drowned out by the monstrous echo of his own heartbeat. His instinct had been correct, but the confirmation ignited a sense of dread he had hoped to avoid. Returning to Sanford, his every sense was heightened. Each mundane detail of the town now seemed to quiver with hidden implications. The faces of the townsfolk, previously innocent and familiar, now took on an unsettling aspect as he observed the subtle changes brought about by the use of the insidious substance. He sought the counsel of a local academic, a reclusive scholar with a particular interest in ancient myths. Professor Alistair was an eccentric figure, cloaked in musty tomes and shrouded in the scent of forgotten knowledge. He identified the strange symbols as the language of a dark deity, a forgotten god from the cosmic abyss, a name whispered in hushed tones in academic circles, something ancient, unspeakable, and forbidden. "Detective, these are whispers from the abyss, the language of the god that should not be." The professor's words danced around the room, casting monstrous shadows on Lynch's already frayed nerves. The conversation was a twisted waltz, leading him ever deeper into the rabbit hole of cosmic horror. Back at the orphanage, under the malignant gaze of the ancient oak, he was unwittingly thrust into the epicenter of the nightmare. A confrontation with a staff member led to a struggle, and in the chaos, he accidentally ingested a small dose of the mind-altering substance. The world melted around him, reality becoming a fluid tapestry that twisted and undulated. Shadows coiled around his vision, and he fell into an abyssal darkness where the rules of time and space were mere suggestions. He stood before an entity of colossal proportions, its form an affront to human comprehension. It laughed in a language of cosmic horror, its laughter echoing in the caverns of his mind, echoing the eldritch symbols he had become all too familiar with. He awoke, sprawled beneath the haunting gaze of the oak tree, the world around him no longer the same. The thin veil that had separated his reality from the abyss had been ripped away, leaving him exposed to the raw, cosmic horror that lay beneath. The whispers of the dark deity echoed in his mind, filling his every waking moment with terrifying revelations. Sanford, previously a town of innocence and simplicity, now seemed like a puppet show orchestrated by unseen hands. Each face he saw, every word he heard, was twisted by the horrifying knowledge of what lurked just beyond the perception of man. Marred by the deity, he found himself trapped within the insidious web of cosmic horror. As he left the orphanage, the echo of the deity's laughter in his mind, he knew he had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The path before him led deeper into the veil of madness, and he had no choice but to walk it. His sanity teetered on the precipice of oblivion as the true depth of the abyss was revealed. The unseen abyss beckoned, and he was helpless but to heed its call. Sanity, Lynch found, was a thin veneer stretched over an abyss of madness, easily shattered by a glimpse into the cosmic unknown. The once sturdy walls of his perception were now cracked and crumbling, each fissure echoing with the laughter of a dark deity that lurked in the shadows of his mind. His sleep was haunted by eldritch nightmares, and his waking hours filled with a chilling sense of disconnect from reality. Despite the turmoil raging within, he wore his resilience like a shield. His trauma, the physical scars of his past, had hardened him into a vessel capable of withstanding the storm. It was in this crucible of cosmic terror that he found the strength to act. Within the silent halls of the orphanage, he confronted the marionettes of the dark deity, those whose minds had been ensnared by the insidious substance. His heart pounded a dreadful beat as he locked eyes with Powell, his gaze hollow, his soul lost in the abyss. Lynch's voice echoed through the rooms, a beacon of defiance against the encroaching darkness, his words carrying the weight of his resolve. "I will not allow this," he rasped, a storm brewing in his eyes. "This ends here." The confrontation was a battle of wills, a struggle against the invisible puppeteer. Powell lunged at Lynch, his actions guided by the cosmic force that held him in its sway. But Lynch, marked by the deity, yet resistant to its complete control, proved stronger. With Powell restrained, the rituals were halted. The strange symbols ceased to glow with unholy light, the air grew less heavy, and the laughter of the deity softened to a faint echo. Yet even as the physical threat receded, Lynch could feel the darkness gnawing at his sanity. He left the orphanage, his escape a staggered dance of a wounded animal. The town of Sanford lay before him, unchanged in its sleepy simplicity. Yet to him it was irrevocably altered. The unseen abyss was a constant companion now, the veil between reality and the cosmic horror permanently torn. His victory was Pyrrhic. He had stopped the rituals, but at the cost of his peace. As he drove away, the rearview mirror framed the fading silhouette of the orphanage, a grim reminder of his ordeal. His mind, once a sanctuary, was now a haunted house echoing with whispers from the abyss. He was a changed man. He had journeyed into the dark and emerged not unscathed, but alive. His perception of reality, once firm and unyielding, was now as fluid as the cosmic seas the deity inhabited. He was left grappling with the chilling understanding of the cosmos and his insignificant place within it. The story of Sanford was over, but his tale was just beginning. He was left with the knowledge of the unseen abyss, the terrifying comprehension of humanity's oblivious existence on the brink of cosmic horror. Yet amid the dread, he found a new purpose. The detective, the survivor, the marked. He was now a guardian standing on the threshold of the unknown, bearing the burden of truth in a world oblivious to the lurking horrors in the unseen abyss. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.